to this lesson on the lovely old tune Staines Morris, and this originally comes from John Playford's The English Dance Master book, which was published way back in 1651. There's been loads of versions of this over the years. Sometimes it's played for the Morris and therefore it's played faster than my version, and also sometimes it's sung. Again, it's a bit more sprightly than mine, but we're doing this in a kind of Elizabethan courtly dance feel, so if you think of that, you won't go far wrong. I'm playing the tune on this Castanari Lily. It's got pretty small bellows, so I have to make a few adjustments for that. If you've got a different instrument to mine, which is obviously fairly likely, you need to experiment with the basses. Sometimes if you sustain the basses for too long, they're going to obliterate the tune, wipe out the tune. So you'll see that I do lots of little short stabby basses on this. Sometimes I do like a mini eruption. I'll show you that as I play it. Just be aware though that you might find that playing the bass note and the chord together might be too much for the tune, might be too loud. It's all a question of balance, and therefore you might want to just play the chord on its own rather than the bass and the chord. There are some instructional notes for this lesson, so do print those out and check them out. Here's a couple of things that are going to help you as you learn this tune. If you're using YouTube, have a couple of versions of it open on two instances of your browser so that you can watch the performance video and dip into that while you're watching this longer tutorial video. And also on YouTube, of course, you can slow the video down to 3/4, half or a quarter speed, and okay, it sounds a bit gurgly when you slow it down, but that's really handy. If you keep pressing the backspace button, the video will jump back to the same place each time. So if you're trying to nail that tricky part, that's a really useful tool to help you. So it's 4 beats to the bar, 4/4. We're in the key of E minor. There are quite a few accidentals in this, so watch out for those. I'm going to set my metronome to 87 beats per minute, and we're starting in what I call pos +1. So there's my metronome ticking away there. That's 87 beats per minute, 4 beats to the bar, so you get the ting, the first beat of each bar. There you see, and that's a fairly good tempo to play it. Obviously, you're welcome to play this at any speed you want. You might want to play it even slower. If you're a beginner or you haven't been playing very long, maybe slow it down a little bit more from there. But I think that's a reasonable tempo to play the tune at. So let's look at that very first bar. Up the top there, it's a complete bar. There are 4 beats in the bar and there are 4 crotchets. That's pretty simple. It's worth saying that as the root note is E in this tune, then I'm calling the D row the main row, therefore giving notes on that row the normal shaped heads. Any notes on the G row, I'm giving diamond shaped heads, so you can see at a glance which row to play your notes on. So we start on the D row on the note B, like I said, and it's that one there, button 6 for me, and then I jump down 2 buttons with finger 4, still pulling, so I've got B and E are my first 2 notes, finger 2 and 4. At the start of this tune there are a lot of notes on the pull, so make sure your bellows are fairly closed up so that you don't get too much of an armful of bellows. We'll deal with that a bit more later. So the third note of the bar is C sharp. It's in the middle of the 2 buttons we've just played. Finger 3, and that C sharp is an accidental. And then we have to stretch out on a conventional layout. If you've got a Melodeon with accidentals, you're going to come up for this note here, which is D sharp. If you own a Melodeon that has low notes, not accidentals, I'm afraid you're going to struggle with this tune. There are lots of D sharps. In case you're wondering, D sharp and E flat are the same thing. I'm calling the note D sharp here, and it's on button 1 on the G row, hence the diamond head, and it's still on the pull. Finger 1, of course. You may have that note on an extra row here, an extra helper row, in which case it's easier, you won't have so much of a stretch. But if you don't have the accidental, you are going to have a bit of a problem, I'm afraid, so sorry about that. So your first 4 notes, 4 crotchets, 1 for each beat of the bar, we have like this. And you can see I've written the word stretch above that D sharp, just reminding you to stretch up to that note. So what about the bass line for that first bar? Right, we've got 2 chords. We've got E minor and A major. If it just says A, by the way, it's A major. We don't write the major in. Okay, some people write MAJ, but it isn't necessary. If it just says A, it's A major. And you're looking at that and you think, well, there's an EM, there's a capital E, and there's a little a. What does it all mean? Okay, generally on the melodeon, the chords are expressed by means of lowercase letters, little letters, and the bass notes are expressed by capital letters. So in our first example there, EM and E means an E minor chord with an E bass. As they're stacked one on top of the other, you play them together. Those basses are found on the pull, of course, because our right hand notes are on the pull. And it's the top two buttons on the inside row. Finger 2 on the E bass, finger 1 on the E minor chord. Now, you might say to me, well, how come you've got a capital E on the E minor when you just said that chords have a lowercase E? And that's a fair point. I use a capital E because I just think a small E and a small M look a bit weird. It looks a bit like So I think that looks a bit strange. So I give my minor chords a capital letter. Okay, so it's E minor chord with an E bass, and then we move over to the outside row. Same buttons 2 and 1, and that gives us an A bass and an A major chord. See there, I have given the chord the lower case letter because it's not a minor chord, it's a major chord. So we're going from E minor to A major. Now you notice how I'm playing those chords. I'm not holding the chords for the full 2 beats because we want to get that nice, what I call a mini eruption. So you play the chord and give it a little swell and stop. And that allows the tune to shine through. Let's play both hands together. Like that, see? And that way you hear the E and the D sharp notes. If you sustain the chords and the bass is too much, I think it spoils the tune, like this. See, it's not so good, is it? So, that's what I suggest. Your melodeon may sound different. If you like the sound of the sustaining chords throughout, then by all means hold them down. You know, there are always options, always choices with this kind of instrument. There are no hard and fast rules, is what I'm trying to say.